Welcome to the Wilderness Workbench. I'm Jacob, and today we're going to be disassembling this Predator 224 in preparation to build it up for my Coleman B200. I'm going to start by removing the air box, so it's two 10mm nuts. There's a vent hose back here for the gas tank. I'm going to try to spin that clamp around so I can pinch it. Pull that off. Got to be careful not to lose this gasket. Next, I'm going to remove the muffler. So that is two 13mm nuts. And there's two washers on here. There goes one to the floor. Gasket is on the engine still. I'm just going to leave it there. And just so I don't lose them, I'm going to put the washers and the nuts back on here. Now I'm going to take off this heat shield. This is 8mm, by the way. Now we're going to pull off the blower housing and recoil as one unit, also 8mm. Got to push the kill switch out. I think I'm actually just going to disconnect it from the wiring. The kill switch is giving me trouble taking it off from the inside. I'm out here in early March, and it's pretty cold outside. It's below freezing. The garage isn't heated, so I'm worried about that plastic cracking. So I'm just going to disconnect the wiring instead and leave it attached to the blower housing. Alright, so now we're going to take this throttle plate off. Looks like two 8mm from what I can see. So there's a spring hooked on right here. Pull that spring off. And then I believe this other spring was on the carburetor. I just twisted it a little bit. Doesn't matter to me because I won't be using that. Next, I'm going to take off the fuel line. I got some needle nose pliers, pinch the clamp, and of course make sure your fuel tank's empty first, or be prepared to plug this with a bolt or something. And then remove the rest of the throttle linkage from the carburetor, slide the carburetor off. I'm going to take off this spacer. Don't lose this thin gasket on here. If I think I'm going to reuse something, I always put the screw back in so I don't lose track of where it came from. So now I should be good to remove the gas tank. So there's an 8mm here and then two 10mm nuts on the front side. It's a longer bolt than all the other 8mm we've used so far. And there's a 10mm nut here and a 10mm nut here. With that, we should be able to remove our fuel tank. I'm going to put the nuts back on these studs here just so I don't lose them. And I'm going to take the long bolt and thread it back into this hole. Next thing I'm going to do, since I know I'm not using any of this governor, I'm going to take this nut off and pull the arm off. This doesn't need to be completely removed, just needs to be loosened. I'm going to remove the ignition coil next just because I know I'm going to be swapping to a billet flywheel. Because it's not the exact same flywheel, you're going to have to move that to adjust the coil gap. So first step's going to be getting the wire free. We've got two 8mm bolts here. I think while I'm on this side, I'm going to take the flywheel off. So the crankshaft nut, or the flywheel nut, is a 21mm. The next thing I'm gonna do is remove these carburetor studs. I know I'm not gonna use them again. I've got a different style carburetor to put on here. So let's just get those out of the way now while it's attached to the engine and they're easy to take off. So to get these carburetor studs off, I'm gonna use one of the nuts from mounting the gas tank, the ones that are on the front side of the engine, and then the acorn nut that originally held on the carburetor. I'm gonna sandwich these together, and then I should be able to just turn the nut closer to the engine, and it should take the stud out. So now I'm going to go through, remove the valve cover and the cylinder head. 8mm bolts out here, and then these are either 12s or 13s. I believe they're 12s for the head bolts. So 8s and 12s. Factory cylinder head, lash cap off the exhaust side. I do have new valves, new valve springs, new retainers, and new keepers. So we're gonna pull these ones out. I'm gonna start by removing the rockers, and then I'll take out the keepers, the springs, and the valves. So for the lash adjustment, this is a 10mm on top and a 14mm on bottom. As far as the springs go, I should just be able to push down back like this. There we go. And then down and back. There's our valves. Alright, so now we're going to take off the side cover bolts, 6 of them, 10mm on all of them. Alright, now we can remove this side cover. Try not to wreck the gasket. I do have a new one. There's just a tiny bit of clean oil in there, probably from when they tested it at the factory. Of course, we've got the plastic or nylon gear on the cam. Pull our lifters out. There's a little bit of oil back here. I'll dump that out in a minute. I'm gonna get this factory connecting rod disconnected and get the connecting rod and piston out. This is a 10mm. Alright, so all that's left in the block is a little bit of oil, the oil level sensor, and then all the parts related to the governor. So we're gonna start with, let's start with the oil sensor. 2 8mm bolts. And then on the outside here, we've got this nut, and it is a 14mm. Now we're gonna move the rest of the governor. So you can remove these parts with the crank still in. You have to take the flywheel off anyways, and the connecting rod and piston off of the crank. So I don't really see the point in not pulling the crank out. You're pretty much already there if you're doing the governor delete correctly with billet replacement parts. So pull this pin here. Shove that arm down and make sure that we get the washer. There it is. So the last part of our governor is this governor gear here with the 2 little weights on it. I already had the button fell off earlier. This piece already fell off. So we're gonna turn it on its face, and then we're gonna take this punch and we're gonna knock the pin all the way through. All right, now that that's through, we got it right here. And we gotta get the washer off of this one as well. So that makes for a completely stripped 224 block. I'm leaving the bearing in the seal. I'm not getting this Cerakoted or anything. Something that I just noticed though on this particular engine, right here, there's some chips from machining. They're just in the cooling jacket, so they wouldn't have affected anything. Nothing was inside the engine. That was just kind of interesting to find. The goal with this engine isn't to make some monster. It's not to make some high revving race engine, but I am putting parts on it that are marketed for adding more power, because they will. Really, this bike is going to be used out at hunting camp. Just needs to be able to climb hills and have a decent amount of power to get around. So that's all I've got for this video. Completely disassembled Predator 224, all ready for a flat top piston, billet rod, billet flywheel, and breaking in on my Coleman B200. So if you're interested in seeing the build of this engine or any videos on this mini bike, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.